I see it every single day, where people sort of within this realm of ancestral health, primal, whatever you want to call it, in that world where I think so much good is being done by reflecting back to our ancestral past. I see now that it's just become this little nitpicky sewing circle of whiny, complaining little bitches about, you mean you have fruit?
Things on the stage, got the whole crowd bouncing, talking about the king of kings of moves, mountain mover. I know you see him, I know you see him.
What's good, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. I have a special guest, a man I consider a great friend, even though I've never met him in person. And without kissing your ass too much, Rob, seriously, getting to know you has been a life-changing thing for me healthfully, and becoming your friend has been a true blessing. So thank you for that, and thanks for coming back on board today.
Oh, man, likewise. I really appreciate you having me here. It's always fun. Looking forward to it, brother.
Outstanding. So, let's dive right into something that I think we can both agree on. These past couple of years where we've seen 1984 go from fiction to basically a instruction manual, not only have we learned, not only have we started being told we have to trust an agency and a group of people that we never trusted in the past. I'm namely talking about Big Pharma that had more multi-billion-dollar lawsuits than pretty much anyone else. We're also being told that the new healthy is something that isn't even remotely healthy. The whole reason why I came to you is I was that version of not healthy in the past. And yet here we are today being told that somebody who's 600 pounds is somehow healthy.
Right.
So I guess the thing is you and I are, you're just a little bit over 50. I'm a little bit near 50. So you and I, as far as life is concerned, it's not going to affect us, but let's talk about how this new doublespeak is going to hurt future generations where being healthy is considered frowned upon and shunned.
Well, it's such a complicated issue because it's not about healthcare. It's about sick care. And we've all heard this, but the issue is it all comes down to bottom lines. It comes down to shareholders. It comes down to money, and the powers that be control powers below them, and it trickles down and snowballs down into to people just below them. And the pharmaceutical people are beholden to the medical industry, and they're beholden to government and policy, and it's all about bottom lines. And I think when it happened personally to me, I mean, I've been following this for 30 years and even more so in the last decade, but there's been a great awareness because of social media, not only in the political realm as to how we're having the wool pulled over our eyes and trust the science and all that bullshit, but at least there's been a great grassroots groundswell from people, within our industry who are calling out this BS and bringing awareness to it. And I think the tide is shifting and turning to a degree, but also the problem is academia. The problem is the industry itself. They know that their bottom lines are at stake, and it's all about money. And, there's so much money in taking care of the sick and the metabolically diseased, and they don't want to let loose of those, dollars coming in. And I remember distinctly, I was telling this story actually literally this morning with a client who's in the healthcare industry and is absolutely just dismayed by how disproportionately shitty it's become in terms of just diagnose to prescribe, because that's what it is. When my father-in-law unfortunately passed back in 2015, my wife and I, our whole family, went down to Florida to be with him. And there was a certain point in time where we were told he stood a very good chance of making it, surviving this issue he was having with his pancreas and some cancer issues. And during this time where he was told, and we were told he might pull through this okay, and we were hopeful of that, obviously, they said, since the outlook is looking okay and he may pull through this, we want to talk with you a bit about aftercare and making sure that he's making the best choices to continue his quality of life and improve his quality of life for the remainder of the years that he has left. We're like, okay, fine. So they bring us in this small room and we all sit behind this table, and they said, well, what we'd like to do first is have you meet with our hospital dietitian. And this is a large hospital down in Florida. And we're like, okay. And, I'm like, that's fine. He needs to eat right. He needs to become active and all the things that you and I know. And long story short, a woman comes into the room holding a couple of notebooks. And just to give everyone a visual, I'm not fat shaming, but this woman had to be well over 300 pounds. She was morbidly clinically obese to the point where it was staggeringly bizarre. And at that moment, I stood up out of my chair and I said, I'm out. I'm done. And I walked out of the room and I said, you can either listen to this line of complete and utter exquisite horseshit, or we can sit down and we can attack this from a different angle. And thankfully, my family pretty much filed out one by one after she started into her litany of exquisite bullshit on how my 60-plus-year-old father-in-law should be conducting his life through nutrition and activity. And all of it was just a complete laundry list of absolute metabolic garbage. And we're seeing that every day. And whether you like the guy or not, another good example is Paul Saladino. We know who that guy is. And, he's making a series of videos now where he will walk into hospitals. He will walk into bariatric surgery departments. He's walking into major, universities, major academia establishments. And he's walking into these cafeterias and he's pointing out, like, at one of the leading bariatric surgery hospitals where people go who are at their wits' end to lose weight and are willing to do anything at this point. And then he walks you through the cafeteria of this particular establishment, and it's nothing but chips and candy bars and seed oil laden foods, fried foods, burgers, hot dogs, fried chicken, total bullshit. Of course, they have the token salad bar over in the corner of wilting leaves and seed oil dressings that people dump all over this wilting lettuce. And the bizarre thing is people think that, there's still healthy options on this bar. And then if you or I were to say, well, no, this is all bullshit, and you need to put grass-fed beef and organic poultry and this, that, they'd all look at us like we just grown a second head right in front of them, when in fact, what we're advocating is going to completely heal them. It's going to be a complete change, wholesale change in their health and well-being. And I see it happen every day. And if you look at what any major hospital, what's on the menu for their diabetic patients, you would freaking pass out. I've seen this happen too. It's carb-ridden, sugar-laden, seed oil-based fucking garbage. Sorry, can I say that?
Cuss away. We do it all.
It's just garbage. And, I actually told a surgeon client of mine just in passing, I said, yeah, this is total crap. I've actually taken 4 clients completely off their insulin. And I did this just with a subtle change in their diet. And he looked at me like I was insane. Like he had never heard this. Here is a respected surgeon who basically takes people apart, puts them back together again, which I totally respect surgeons. They thank God for them. Right. But he then admitted that, I know nothing about nutrition. We weren't told anything about nutrition in all my years in med school, in residency, in common practice, nothing. And it's staggering when I start talking to some of these people in the medical profession about, what I advocate, how they should eat, how I eat, what I do to stay lean and fit in my mid-50s. They look at you like you're practically speaking some alien language, and you basically have to start over from scratch from somebody who is a serious tenured professional working within the realm of the healthcare industry. And we still have so far to go with this, and it's still so crazy. And it's just amazing what grassroots people like us can do to push people in the right direction. And we have to continue to do that at the ground level. And, it is what it is, but I like to think that we're making some strides because of people like ourselves and within this industry and with what we've accomplished and what we're bringing out within others. And hopefully that will continue on.
Amen to that. I have to add just a quick anecdote. You were talking about a diabetic diet inside a hospital. So the guy who plays guitar, the guitar player in my band, he had to get surgery done. He had a tumor on his back, and emergency surgery. They tell him that he's got really high blood sugar, so they're going to put him on a diabetic diet. And he'd already been lowering his A1C through me telling him, if God didn't make you, you don't need to eat it. Eat the stuff that's in the ground or what eats the ground, like eat some beef, right?
Right.
And so that next morning when they put him on the diabetic diet, whatever, yeah, first thing, basically chocolate chip pancakes, and syrup and everything else. And I was like, that's the exact opposite of what you should be eating. What in the hell are they doing to you? So thankfully he got out of the hospital. His surgery's doing well. So Doug, if you're watching this video, get well. And yeah, just the thing, it just amazes me that the lack of, but I think we both agree, a healthy patient makes for a broke. I don't want to dig on doctors. They're doing a great job, but they're beholden to these pharmaceutical companies. And that's what basically cripples the medical industry. And folks, if you still trust your government, you have not read a history book. So get that straight right now. Now, for folks who don't know you, most anybody who follows this channel knows who you are, because I pretty much mention you on every show, because I'm not going to steal your ideas and go, oh yeah, it's Chris Crowley's idea, right?
I mean, we're all stealing somebody's ideas, then we just further that. And because we're all just the people who are doing it for the right reasons, we're just trying to help people. So as long as somebody out there is being helped, I don't give a shit where it comes from. That's why we do this. Right.
But you and I have that same thing. We can't just say something and not give the credit. Like you talk about the Perillo Press or the Meadows Row or something like that. You got to give the credit where it's due.
Sure, yeah.
When we first started working together, you had basically the hybridized ketogenic bodybuilding protocol, where you use carbs as like that Allen wrench to make sure the Harley Davidson is revving even better.
Right.
You've somewhat transitioned now into a carnivore based diet. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But
no, yeah.
Okay. What benefits have you seen going more carnivore and less even indulgent in any sort of carbs?
Well, this is interesting. Ketogenic bodybuilding, when I sort of threw those two names up on the branding years ago when I started down this path, I'm so upset, and I'm actually doing my own YouTube video on this soon about these diet wars right now. And what I'm very disappointed with, and I know I'm kind of sidestepping your question a little bit, but I'll come back to it. Sure. I'm a little upset with the industry because I see it so often. I see it every single day, where people sort of within this realm of ancestral health, primal, whatever you want to call it, in that world, where I think so much good is being done by reflecting back to our ancestral past. I see now that it's just become this little nitpicky sewing circle of whiny, complaining little bitches about, you mean you have fruit on, that's not a carnivore diet. You're not carnivore. And I had somebody tell me that because I eat chicken, that I'm basically days away from falling over dead from some bizarre ass inflammatory response. And I'm not carnivore, and that I should take my carnivore card and rip it up and burn it and bury it 6 feet down. And I should be disgraced and ostracized from the whole community. And then it just drives me insane, because I get to the point where I don't even want to call it anything anymore. This is how I eat. And I really like the whole primal approach, and then it's sort of subdivided into certain areas, which I was fine with that too. But now, instead of people within the ketogenic community and the paleo community and the carnivore community and the animal-based, whatever the hell that is, community, uniting together to pat each other on the back and, sort of congratulate all of us for being little versions of within that world, finding what works for us individually, and then reaching out to help these people on standard American diets or vegan diets or, all these ridiculous, quick fix diets and Weight Watchers and all this shit. Instead of being a united front to help people, we're getting caught up in nitpicking within our own ranks. And it's just really kind of sad and pathetic. And my entire career, I've talked about dogma and zealotry within the ketogenic community. And when I went, when I started literally making money and feeding my family because I was coaching a ketogenic style nutrition plan along with my training, I called it that for lack of a better term, because throughout the day, yes, I'm going into ketosis. And then sometimes I'm not, but it's still elements of a ketogenic diet. And I thought, okay, this is fine. And then you start going down that road, and all of a sudden everybody's coming out of the woodwork to tell you, well, if you're not taking in 73% of your calories from dietary fat, you're not keto. And I'm like, what? Well, isn't being in ketosis just the absence of glucose? What does having gobs and gobs of fat pouring through your body have to do with being ketogenic? And so I'm fighting all these fights, and I've got like a sword in this hand and a gun in this hand and a bazooka on my back. And I'm like deflecting all this horse shit like some freaking bizarro dietary ninja. And I'm finally to the point where I'm just like, listen, if we can't unite together and accept the fact that, hey, if what's working for you is working for you, and you're not a metabolic train wreck, and you wake up every morning and you feel great and you sleep like a baby and your training's on point and your blood markers are good and everything is humming right along under the hood, then shut the hell up and reach out and help someone, or pat someone in the back who may not be exactly like you, but on, within the same realm, and unite together to get out and help people like you and I are doing right now. You didn't eat exactly what I did yesterday, and I didn't eat exactly like you did yesterday, but you could probably classify what we both did under the same broad umbrella. And that's two good things happening within the industry. So yeah, to get back, I just wanted to get that off my chest because it's been driving me insane. But to get back to your question, yeah, I was doing almost very strict carnivore throughout my entire 2021 prep. I never really came out and said that, because why should I have to? If you're carnivore, you're still keto. So carnivore is keto, but keto isn't necessarily carnivore. And so it starts getting weird again. So yeah, I found that for somebody who's trying to get as lean as possible and preserve as much muscularity as humanly possible in my 50s, I found that, number one, I know for a fact that you do not have to ingest carbs. You do not need to ingest vegetables to be a healthy human being. And I'll argue that till I'm dead. But there are certain points where on occasion I'll have some vegetables because it sounded like something I wanted to eat at that time. So now that I'm retired from that, I'm speaking more about it to be like, yeah, I'm basically carnivore. And then, so I do that. And then what happens? The floodgate opens. Everybody wants to, micromanage my carnivore diet. I'm like, why do you care? So if I had some sauteed cabbage with my ribeye last Tuesday night, all of a sudden, I've turned against the community and I should have my card revoked. Dude, if that's what you're focused on, you need to really put in check how you're living your life, because you've got way too much fucking time on your hands. There are bigger things you could be focusing on than if I ate freaking cabbage and I say I'm on a carnivore diet. Because probably, if I had to guess, I would say I am 97% carnivore.
Sure.
Who cares? So yeah, I think the carnivore diet is a cool thing for me. And if somebody comes to me and says, listen, I am doing a ketogenic diet and I'm still having some abdominal distress, some GI issues. I'm having these little symptoms from my, autoimmune dysfunction that I had in the past, and keto kind of alleviated a great part of that, but now I'm still having a little bit of that. Then I'll say, okay, let's do this. If you're open to it, why don't we go, let's take a deeper step into the carnivore world and sort of diagnose what happens when we do that and see if we can alleviate some of these things. Let's look at it like a elimination diet to sort of diagnose you. And then one of two things is going to happen. They're going to come back and say, nothing's really changed. I miss eating vegetables. I miss having some fruit here and there. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to say, great. Right. Okay. Or they're going to say, holy shit, I feel freaking amazing just eating animal meat, animal flesh. I feel great just eating beef and chicken and pork and eggs and fish. And I feel freaking amazing. I'm losing weight. All my symptoms have gone away. My inflammatory markers have dissipated considerably. And then I'm like, fantastic. Okay, great. Now let's just keep monitoring that as we go along. It's not rocket science. It's for 4 million years, give or take, at some point, the overwhelming majority of the human species craved fatty meat to sustain life.
Right.
That's what they did. I'm sorry, vegans, but that's what they did. And now we have, some testing that backs that up, some carbon-15 radioisotope testing or something like that, that really digs into some of the fossil record, that really looks into what human beings, from what's left over from them, what they ate. And turns out it's primarily animal-based nutrition.
Nice.
And when the hunter could not get the elk or the gazelle or the mammoth or whatever the hell he was after, then yeah, if you're freaking starving, then you're going to go dig something out of the ground. But I'm telling you, if you don't know this, a sweet potato 2,000 years ago isn't like the one you picked off the freaking, rack at your local supermarket. It wasn't an appetizing thing, and they still wanted the fatty meat. I mean, that's what life was. So yeah, occasionally I have sauteed cabbage. Apparently I should be drawn and quartered for that. So do your version of it, find what works for you, and then run with that. And then you can make micro adjustments as you go along. I found personally, I had a great conversation with somebody in the industry who was actually cool about it, saying, well, you don't need carbohydrate to sustain life. You're right. You don't. Not 1 damn gram ever. And you can live a very good life, amazing life, maybe better than what you're living now. Well, then why would you eat carbohydrates around training? Okay. For almost 10 years, I was a competitive bodybuilder. And when I do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm not going to take any shortcuts. I'm never going to take my foot off the gas. So what I found was, even though, yes, I could go through a hard training session just on MCT oil and black coffee and salt, what I found is when I took in 27 grams of rice, or 1 scoop of cyclic dextrin, or a rice cake, salt, and a little bit of raw honey, I found I had just a little bit more punch during that workout for me, and I liked it. And here's the other thing. I'm competing in bodybuilding. What's the goal? To stand on stage in less than your underwear in front of judges and not only look symmetrical and ridiculously lean and ridiculously cut, but it's about vascularity, it's about separation. So when I would finish a hard workout session, what would I do while I was in prep? I would go stand in front of a mirror and I would pose and evaluate my physique meticulously. And by taking in those 27 to 30 grams of carbohydrate 15 minutes before I trained, I found that my vascularity was more on point. And before somebody says it, yes, I took in a lot of salt too. And I found that I had a killer freaking workout. I had an amazing pump. When I could stand in the mirror after my workout and evaluate my physique, it had all of the attributes that I would want if I were 15 minutes away from standing on stage and being evaluated for my physique in that moment. And I also know, because I'm not a complete freaking idiot, that those 27 to 30 grams of carbohydrate, because of the way I train, high intensity, were absolutely gone by the time I did my last set or even before that. And I knew there was going to be no detrimental effects from that carbohydrate whatsoever. It's not like I'm eating bowls of rice at 10 p.m. in my underwear, okay? This was structured and meticulous and calculated, and it was for a specific purpose for bodybuilding. That's what it was. And that worked well for me. So yes, Primal Bob, yes, you do not need carbohydrates, not 1 damn gram ever in your life. However, if you can use them as a constructive tool to bring out for your physique, for your training, the best for you in your performance and for your best way that you can evaluate aesthetically your physique. And for some, this is going to sound crazy, but there are some people out there that just, if they can have that right, I've got these clients. I have a couple of clients, and they will tell me, Rob, the fact that I can have that rice cake and honey and a little smear of almond butter before I train, that's all I need to not later in the day go on an all out carbohydrate fucking binge.
Right.
So it's different for everybody. But now if you're the person also that says, okay, and I've had people come and tell me this, listen, I had 2 rice cakes and some honey or a handful of freaking gummy bears or whatever before I trained, and it was great, but that triggered something in me to where I couldn't stop eating carbs for the rest of the day. So what do you think my reply was? Suck it up, buttercup. Don't be so fucking weak. No, I said, okay, then don't do that. Right. If doing that puts you into a dark place and takes you down a bad path, then let's eliminate that and find something alternative to that that still works for you. And I've got a couple of people who found that to be true and can get nearly the same performance benefit through MCT oil, coffee, salt, and something along those lines. And then it's not going to push them psychologically or even physiologically to have to go off, go behind an alley, with a box of Krispy Kreme and, go on a carb binge at 3 hours after their workout. Right. So once again, it all goes back to, hey, when somebody works with me, I'm going to find the best approach within this broad realm. I'm throwing shit everywhere. Within this broad realm of possibilities within the umbrella of a primal ancestral health approach, and meticulously dissect what's going to work best for them. And I've talked about it in previous podcasts. Nearly everyone that I train for a physique competition, I have them carb up the day before a show, and then that morning before they stand on stage, and I have a formula for that. I've had 2 or 3 competitors that just didn't work for them. So I found what worked great for them, instead of a carb up, it was just an uptick in calories. So I would take whatever protein and fat, and I would just elevate that, sometimes 2-3 times what they were taking during their cut. And I would have them take that in 24 hours before stage time, and then that morning before stage time, and just pound a bunch of sodium to give them enough vascularity to present that physique. But because the carbohydrate load just didn't work for them, it blowed them up like a puffer fish. It was so bizarre, but that's just their physiology. So you have to determine that. And once you do determine that, then you jab and you move in the ring until you find the combination that's going to land the punch that wins the fight. Wow, that was a long-winded explanation. So I'm sorry for that. But
no, hell no, that was great. Hey, look, it's all good. I learned a lot. You mentioned so folks understand. It's really, a lot of people find their own thing and then they get married to it, and it'll bruise their ego if they're proven wrong. And I'm no different.
Right.
For many, many years of my training, even though, I worked out all the time, I just didn't have the diet right. So thankfully, I actually had some muscle underneath like the 8,000 layers of fat. So when I finally got shredded, I was able to get up on an NPC stage for the first time ever in my 40s. Even though I got my ass handed to me, I at least looked like I belonged there. All right. So I love this sport, and I'm not going away from it until the good Lord puts me in the ground. But when we first started working together, I was that guy that, because Arnold Schwarzenegger said so, I believed it to be true. You had to do a lot of volume to get the workout in. And honestly, the thing is there's only so many hours in a day. I still have to have my real job. I got to have my other midlife crisis of being in a cover band in Cleveland, Ohio, which is the, music hotspot of the world. And I got to be a husband. I got to be a father and everything else. Sooner or later, there's no more hours left in the day. Getting into the intensity part, I think the proof is in the pudding. I know this year, even though I didn't have the right conditioning because I really effed off my prep season this year, which is all my own fault, I know I put on some damn good size through intensity. Can you walk us through your philosophy on high intensity training?
Oh man, that's something that I really am passionate about. And it's very strange because I was so into that back in the 90s. I was a walking freaking encyclopedia. I could tell you, and I still can, but back then it was like, I wanted to walk through the supermarket, grab somebody by the hair, pull them, throw them into the cereal boxes and tell them about high intensity training and why it's better than everything else. So I've calmed down since then, but I've always just said, I believe in, less volume, higher intensity. That's how I train. And then recently, all these years later, I started talking a little bit more detail about how I've been a HIT, not HIIT, advocate for nearly 30 years. And I still think it's the best approach to training, especially if you're natural. And it's kind of like the floodgates opened up, sort of like back in 2015 when I was quietly doing a ketogenic diet and getting major results with it. People then the keto wave hit and people found out that I was the guy that was teaching people who love to work out how to do it with a ketogenic diet. And I was just like, the floodgates open. It's kind of happening that way with this HIT thing. I'm like, it's been around for years. Check it out. No, I want to hear about it from you. Okay. Listen, if you look at this from a logical, rational perspective, the goal to achieve muscularity, it's about overcompensation. It's about, obviously progressive resistance to achieve overcompensation. If you look at this logically, the goal is to push your muscle to a point that it can no longer push anymore. And by doing that, the body, as a defense mechanism, sends a signal to your brain that because of this high intensity damaging activity that you just did to tear down this muscle to the greatest degree possible within that time period, that as a defense mechanism, it now needs to not only get back to baseline where it was before you damaged it, but as a defense mechanism, in the event that you're ever going to do this again, which you are a week from now in that same body part, it better overcompensate and be prepared for this onslaught when it comes after you again. And that's where muscle growth occurs. And I talk about it in one of my videos where it's like digging a hole. And this is not my analogy. This is a Mike Mentzer analogy from way back in the 70s, where if you think of this one great set that you do and think of it as digging a hole. So as I'm doing a set of squats, I'm digging a hole into the dirt with each repetition. So my goal is to find the greatest amount of damage that I can do to my body, which is through failure of the muscle. So you wouldn't want to do 25 reps under this load because you would aerobically give out, or maybe, your central nervous system might call it quits before you get to the end. So if you're truly going to take a set to failure, which most people don't understand what that is, you have to develop that. By taking that one set to failure, you've dug that hole, and now you get the hell out of the gym and you rest and you feed the muscle properly. And what happens? The body first begins by compensating. It rebuilds the muscle that you had, that you torn down, and gets it back to ground level. And then you still have to give it time to pack a little dirt on top. That's the new tissue growth. And that just made total sense to me when it was explained to me 30 years ago. And then especially because I was getting into bodybuilding and I gravitated towards Dorian Yates because of his work ethic, just his blue collar, lunch pail, blood and guts approach. And then I found out that that's what he was really digging and that's what was working for him. It all made sense to me. So, and then when the analogy was made that it's sort of like a sunburn, when you need just enough, you get just enough, not enough exposure. Like if you stood under a 100-watt light bulb for 8 hours, nothing's going to happen. But if I get in, south of the equator sunshine in Costa Rica, in brilliant sunlight, naked, there's only a certain amount of that exposure that my body can tolerate before it starts to tan. So it's going to start to tan, and then it's going to start to burn, but then too much more, it's going to start to create so much damage that it creates an injury. And then you have to get the hell out of the sun, and then the tissue grows back, and then you grow darker as a defense mechanism against those rays in the event that you get out there again. That's why when you go to Costa Rica, everybody's tan. It's a defense mechanism against the ozone layer, than the sun. So that made total sense to me. So that when I started applying that and I started working with people within that realm, and they told me what true failure was, and they explained what true failure was, that's when it really started to happen for me. I mean, I've told the story a million times. I was 170 something pounds in my early 20s. And I started getting some results and realized, oh, I've got the genetics for this. I think I might be a bit of a hyper responder. I started to put on muscle quick. But when I switched over to a super high intensity approach, to where I just did, in those days, I did one feeder set of roughly 60 to 70% of what my maximum was. And then I would sit there for a couple of minutes and take myself to such a dark place in my mind. And then I would go after that final all out one set to the absolute total freaking death. And I got up to 230 pounds in the next 8 months. And completely drug free. It was just lots of food and super high intensity training. And it was unbelievable. And then I started working with other people the same way and saw the same thing. I worked with this kid named Steve Willis. He was about 20 years old. He weighed 161 pounds. And I said, I'm going to take you through a high intensity experiment. And within 7 months, I had this kid at 210, jacked, amazing, to the point where, cool story, he actually spent over a decade. He moved away, went to Atlanta, and became a very successful male model and made a bunch of money doing that. And then he got into the business world. But high intensity training always made the most sense to me, especially if you're natural. If you think about these guys that do super high volume that are on a bunch of gear, steroids, what do steroids do? Well, not only do they create an anabolic effect in the body, but they also help you with hyper recovery. They make the recovery mechanism heightened so you can recover from these great efforts. And that's how these guys can withstand an hour and a half of training and 2 a days and all this stuff. But for the normal Joe, I think the absolute greatest approach, if you want to achieve your greatest level of muscularity in a natural state just by using food and sleep, which are two of the most anabolic things on earth, then I think the high intensity model works the best. And I always have. But here's the caveat. It's shocking how many people cannot take themselves to that place. And that's really the defining key here. What is failure? I had the absolute honor and privilege of doing 3 consultation sessions with Mike Mentzer, God rest his soul. And he explained it to me. At that time, I had a young son. My son, Tyler, was just a baby. When I got to do one session with him in person after 2 telephone, remember those with the cord, sessions with him. And it was just amazing experience. And he said to me before we did our 15-minute workout in California, he said, "Do you have any children?" I'm like, "Yes, sir. I have a young son." He's like, "Well, I don't mean to get really morbid here," he said, "but let me ask you a question," because we were going to do back. That's the body part I picked. And we were about to do a set of pullovers on the Nautilus pullover machine, and then a set of reverse grip pull downs. And he said, "When we do this set, I want you to go to absolute failure." And he said, "But I want you to understand what this means." I said, "Okay, sir." He said, "That means while you're doing that set of pull downs, when you tell me you can't do another one, and you tell me there's no way it's ever going to happen, imagine I had a gun in the mouth of your infant son, and I threaten to spray his brains all over the gym floor if you don't get another one." Well, first of all, I thought, well, that's a little harsh. But and then he even apologized. He said, "I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm really trying to paint a picture here for you to understand where I'm coming from." He said, "Do you think you could complete one more rep?" And I said, "Yeah, or die trying." He's like, "Yes, there you go." What do you think I did in the presence of an absolute bodybuilding super legend like Mike Mentzer? I gave it so much effort that the whites of my eyeballs busted the blood vessels and they turned bright red. And it was one of the most fatiguing sets of my life, one set, to the point where when I was done, I had to go down to one knee, catch my breath, seeing stars everywhere, thought I might pass out. But in that moment, I understood what failure was. And it was a really bizarre, cool, shocking experience. And then I went on to continue to try to develop that mindset over the course of several years and kept honing that. And I felt like, wow, I'm in kind of unique waters here where I truly feel like little old me, nobody me, I'm nobody special. I think I'm one of the few that really gets it, because I had the pleasure and the honor of working with somebody who is a pioneer in this. And I get it. So it's the hardest thing to get somebody to do is to truly find that within themselves, what that kind of effort means. And when you understand, when you put forth that kind of effort in a set, number one, you've done your job. You can't tell me that growth hasn't been stimulated. It totally has. From the most basic physiological level, you've stimulated growth. Now, if you just walk away and let the growth mechanism fall into place, you're going to get benefit from that. If you continue to do another set and another set after you've already done that one all-out set to failure, all you're doing at that point is creating an inroad to the recovery process. So now when you had everything the way you wanted it, and now you just had to leave it alone and let it rebuild and grow, let's say I did 2 or 3 more sets and then did 2 or 3 more exercises for that same body part. Now I'm just lengthening the recovery process at that time because I keep hammering at this sunburn. I keep breaking the blister and putting more heat on it and exposing it to more sunlight before it's ever had an opportunity to grow back and heal from the exposure that it had a week ago. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So when I really got what high intensity training was, then that's when the magic started to happen. And there's a great in Mike Mentzer's book, Heavy Duty 2, Mind and Body, which you actually can't get anymore, sadly. He talks about a conversation that he had with Dorian Yates after taking him through an arm workout. And Dorian, literally, Mr. Olympia, called him and said, Mike, I'm not bullshitting you when I tell you, I'm telling you, my biceps grew overnight just from that one workout that we did. And I know my body. I'm not just kidding. This isn't just hype. It's unbelievable. And if you know anything about Dorian Yates, if you've ever looked up Dorian Yates, Blood and Guts, and watch some of those old black and white videos of him training, then you understand that he gets that.
Right.
And the same kind of experience happened with me when I started training that way, to the point where other people in the gym were like, what is that poor guy doing? 12, 15, 20 minutes later, I was a heap on the floor, freaking dying. And they heard me a few minutes earlier, practically, you thought I'd been shot because I was, yelling and shit, grunting and just dying. But I'm telling you, the changes that my physique took when I incorporated that style of training were nothing less than just stunning. I blew myself away. And when I got into bodybuilding, it was always about the experiment. I never wanted to compete. All the way back in the 90s, when my whole life was bodybuilding. I lived it, I breathed it, I slept it. That's all I cared about. I still didn't compete. I didn't want to. I was like, no, it's just the scientific experiment of this. How far can I push this? Where can I take this? I want to document this process. I felt like I was conducting my own private research study, and it was just so intriguing and fascinating to me to watch this unfold as I did it. And then many years later, I thought, you know what? I never did that whole compete thing. That might be fun. Let's do that as a bucket list now that I'm just this old guy. And I had a blast, and I did it for almost a decade, and I don't do it anymore, but I would never trade those years for anything. So yeah, I believe fully, this is a longer conversation than we have if you really want to get into the nuts and bolts of this, but I truly believe that the high intensity approach, especially for the natural bodybuilder, I think is going to yield the best results. But good luck finding people who can truly turn this off, because the mind always quits before the body. That's the way we were designed. That's the way God made us. It's a protection mechanism. And we were designed to where when we start to feel that physical discomfort, the brain says, okay, this is uncomfortable, which discomfort could lead to damage, and damage could lead to injury. So let's shut this shit down and preserve where we're at. Let's keep this homeostasis active. Let's find balance. So you've got to learn to push beyond what the brain is telling you. Turn off that central governor, turn off that defense mechanism circuit board, and push yourself to that level that most people will never, ever get to their entire lives. Endurance athletes at the highest level know how to continue to pedal that bike up a fucking Alp for 8 hours and suffer. Lance Armstrong always used the word suffer because that's what it was.
Right.
And guys like that and David Goggins and these people, they always talk about it's in the mind. It's in the mind. Mike Mentzer, he was he was really into, you know, the psychology aspect of it and the philosophy aspect of it. Philosophy was his thing. And he said, it's all here. It's all the mind. It's all the brain. We have to learn how to get past that barrier in order to open up this whole world that no one has ever experienced. And that's the true key to growth, both mentally and physically. And that's where the whole high intensity, he was the most cerebral bodybuilder on the planet. If you read some of his stuff, it's quite amazing. And he still doesn't get the credit that he deserved.
You know, I think there was a lot of politics in that back in the day, because
Yeah.
as much as I love Arnold, you know, I mean, there was so much infighting with those two guys that it was like even if Mike showed up 300 times better than Arnold, he was
Which he did in 1980, which he did.
Right. Yeah. You know, I mean, again, nothing but love for Arnold, but, you know, politics happen, and that's kind of where that happened. You know, every episode that you're on, which of course is episode 2, I learn a lot. I have one question, because it does come up when it comes to like high intensity training, I don't have a workout partner because they're unreliable. You always get that one guy, you know, like it's leg day and all of a sudden, you know, he got a cramp in his, I'm not going to finish that sentence there. They turn into bitches and they don't show up. So then you got to do this on your own. Obviously I can't train to failure doing a bench press, because if I'm at a failure, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask you, what would be your advice to go high intensity when you don't have a training partner?
Okay. Number one, you could make a very strong argument. I don't think anybody would disagree with you that Arthur Jones is the one who pioneered this.
Okay.
Arthur Jones was an eccentric, bizarre dude, but brilliant at the same time. He's just one of those people. There's a lot of famous people that are just these brilliant psychopaths, and he was one of them.
There's a picture of one right there, very eccentric dude, but quite brilliant in his field.
Yeah, screwed up in the head. Absolutely. I'll agree with that part. But Arthur Jones was brilliant. And what did he invent? He invented the Nautilus machines. Okay. This was back when the only machines in fitness were the universal machine, and which was actually a really cool machine. But Arthur Jones took his brilliant, bizarre mind and developed the Nautilus machines. And he realized that free weights in many cases had limitations to where the strength curve occurred within a range of motion. So just in the most basic sense, if you're doing a barbell curl, there's going to be a point where in terms of percentage of resistance to the muscle, that percentage is going to vary through the range of motion. There may be more stress being put on the muscle here, then it might be a little less here, and then it's even less here, and then it gets more here. So it varies. And he didn't like that. He said, well, how can we make this to where we're getting the maximum amount of stimulation and stress and resistance to the muscle throughout the entire range of motion? So it was his son who finally said, when he was racking his brain designing this equipment, to come up with a cam that was shaped sort of like a bean.
Okay.
And by using a cam that was just the right size and just the right shape, depending on what body part machine he was developing, he found that using that cam system, he could generate roughly the same amount of resistance to the muscle throughout the entire range of motion. So that was a pioneering move all in and of itself. And Arthur Jones was very fast to say, you can get just as good, if not, in my opinion, better results by using machines over free weights. Of course, the entire industry lost its mind. You know, oh no, free weights are always better, always better. And sure, free weights are great, and I still use them to this day, but there's nothing wrong with machines. And his argument was, this is bodybuilding. You know, that's where his really passion lied. That's why he liked working with guys like Menser and Casey Viator and these guys. And that's where all these cool experiments really molded his brand. And he loved using machines, and Mike Menser carried that through again. And then Dorian Yates, you got to bring him up again, because when people say, oh, you got to squat, you got to put a barbell on your back and squat. If you don't squat, you're not a damn man. You know, Dorian Yates was like, oh, squats bother my back. They bother my knees. So I'm going to do them on the Smith machine. And that's the way Dorian Yates always squatted, or he used a leg press, or he would do the Mike Menser pre-exhaust method of leg extension to leg press to total failure. And it worked out okay for him, 6 Olympias. It's all right. you know? But the thing of it is, you know, we can't forget when you're looking at the high intensity training principle, it was really developed on Nautilus machines. And so the simple answer to your question is get on a Smith machine, get on a hammer strength wide press or a hammer strength incline press. Find a machine derivative of that and push it to freaking failure. You know, this is about building muscle. It's about muscular hypertrophy. And yeah, you can make an argument, well, the dumbbell, you're going to use stabilizer muscles and you got to balance, da da da. At the end of the day, if the goal is to take this pectoral muscle and make it 15% larger over the course of a year than it was when you started, you can certainly reach muscular hypertrophy to a great level by using a machine press and isolating that muscle. So 100%, I would say, just use machines where you can spot yourself and be safe in that movement. And then when possible in the gym, find that guy and say, hey, come here. When I can't push up another one, give me one light forced rep. And then I'm just going to control that negative down. Can you do that for me? You got it? Okay, good. And I had to do that myself back in the day. Fortunately now, thank God, I've found a couple of insane people who are willing to do this shit with me. And so we engage in these high intensity workouts now. But back in the day, there were times where I couldn't find anybody willing to put themselves through that kind of torment with me. So I would use all machines. I remember when the hammer strength shit came out and the gym I was in brought in a whole line of it. I'm like, well, this is cool. And then I found out that it was invented by Arthur Jones' son. I was like, well, shit, the stars are lining up. And I got on that shit and absolutely freaking loved it. So I used a ton of machines. Yesterday, you know, we did chest. So we did a hammer strength incline to total failure. We did 2 feeder sets of roughly 60% of our max to warm up the shoulders. And more importantly, and this is why I do feeder sets, it's for this. By doing that light feeder set, I am preparing my mind. I'm preparing my environment. I'm visually seeing the hell that I'm about to, the fire pit that I'm about to jump into. It's not easy for anyone, unless maybe you're just Dorian Yates or Mike Mentzer, to just go from sipping a cup of coffee to destroying yourself in one set. So I like doing those 2 feeder sets to just get my mind in that place, that dark, dark place, right, where I know I can take it to that point. So yesterday, my entire chest workout was 2 feeder sets of incline hammer strength. And then my third one was to all out to the death, total freaking failure with instructed my partners to give me 2 forced reps and don't make them easy. And then that was done. And then, so we go to the Smith machine, we go flat. We did 2 light feeder sets, got my mind right. And you can ask them. I walked around the gym, got my shit together, questioned all my life choices, you know, and then got under that damn thing without saying a word, got myself in that place and took myself to the point of utter total freaking death and got 2 forced reps. There were no way in hell, no fucking way in hell I could have done those 2 reps that I had my partners force me through, so I could take advantage of the negative portion, the eccentric portion of the lift where you are the strongest. So we took a high intensity technique to take that failure set to an even greater degree, and did the stimulus occur to incorporate growth and overcompensation? 100% yes. What dumbass thing it would have been if I would have got up and said, okay, let's go do some dumbbell presses now, and then let's go do some flies, and then let's go do this, and then I'll do 100 push-ups. Why? Why would I do that? Anyone logically explain to me what the point would be after I've already taken myself to the point of absolute failure, set the growth mechanism into motion at that point. Because have you ever built any muscle in the gym? Have you? No. You haven't. You built muscle when you're sleeping, when you're resting. We're tearing it apart in the gym. That's where the damage occurs. That's where you're getting the sun exposure and tearing down the pigment of your skin to create that burn. And then when you go home and rest and get in the shade and put aloe on it and chill and don't get out in the sun, that's when it heals and grows back new tissue. So I completely tore it down. With 3 workout partners, the workout lasted only 30 minutes. So if I had to start a stopwatch and only measure the amount of time I was under load, 10, 12 minutes, I would guess at the most. But those were 10 to 12 minutes of absolute all out to the death intensity. And then what did I do? I backed away, and now I'm letting the growth process occur. It's just a natural organic process. Feed the muscle, let it grow. And that, that chest workout was done on a Wednesday, and I will not touch chest again for an entire week. Oh, well, that's a bro split, blah, blah, blah. No, I call it a pro split. I have put the growth mechanism into motion, and now I'm waiting for that muscle to compensate and return to baseline where it was before I did those 2 horrific sets. B, now I'm letting some dirt pack on top, new growth, which at 54 is not going to be much. So I'm going to try to get every damn ounce I can. And then, are you telling me that this is more 8th grade physiology, kids? Are you telling me that if, let's say, my body finally heals, let's say hypothetically, I'm just throwing numbers in space. I did the chest workout on a Wednesday. So let's say hypothetically, it's not done just compensating until Saturday. And then let's say it overcompensates a little on Sunday and maybe a little bit more on Monday. And let's say it's done on Monday. So what, do I have to hit chest on Monday now? I can't wait till Wednesday? What, is all that muscle just going to go away on Tuesday until I hit it on Wednesday? No, it's going to sit there on me unless I'm like in a concentration camp and starving myself to death. It's going to sit there and wait until I hit it again on Wednesday next week. Mike Menser, back to him, he was asked when he was doing a seminar, there were a couple guys in the crowd, and one stood up and said, well, Mr. Menser, so-and-so in this study says that you reach the point of growth stimulation by reaching 82% of failure. And then so-and-so in this paper said, no, it's actually 91%. And one said it doesn't take any more than 60% to stimulate growth. And Mike Menser in his brilliance said, okay, so 62, like 71, 82. Well, in my method, I go to 100. So I've covered your 62, I've covered your 82, I've covered your 96, and I took it to 100. So I have made absolutely sure that I've covered all the bases, and make no mistake, growth has been stimulated. Now what do? I leave it the hell alone and I let it grow. And it was such a poignant statement. And it was just like, and the kid sat down and was like, oh shit. All right, don't question the man. You just can't do it. And like I said, if you look at this through a logical, rational lens, you're going to have a really hard time arguing with yourself on this volume approach, unless, what do we follow? What do we follow? We look at it used to be, we looked at the magazines. Right. Now we're looking at the Instagram accounts and the YouTube channels, and we're watching the Chris Bumsteads and the Big Ramies and the back in the day we watched the Jay Cutlers and the Ronnie Colemans and the Phil Heaths as the internet age was coming forward. And that's how we looked at these bodybuilding stars. Because back in my days, you go by Flex Magazine and Iron Man Magazine and Muscular Development. That's the only way we saw them. And then you go to seminars where they would be brought in and paid money to speak to all these people. And you met your stars back then, or you go to the shows. Well, now we look at the Instagram accounts, and what are we comparing ourselves to? These guys that are on 36 different compounds of steroids and drugs. And I'm not demeaning them. I don't care what they take. Because, and that's another issue I want to bring up real fast. Let's get this right. Let's open this right up.
Yep.
For that guy that says, oh yeah, them damn bodybuilders, they're just on a bunch of steroids, a bunch of fakes and phonies. Well, number one, Billy Bob, that NFL running back that you're cheering on Sunday afternoon while you sit in your fucking lazy boy with a bowl of chips on your stomach and a beer in your hand, you wouldn't believe how much freaking juice that guy's on. And I know that for an absolute freaking fact. Okay. So shut up. And then look at some of these Tour de France cyclists. Some of their cycles of steroids that they're taking would make a bodybuilder blush. Like, holy shit, dude.
Right.
Whoa, back off, man. And here's a fucking 115-pound cyclist. So I don't care what they're taking. That's the industry. People are paying to see freaks. They want to go to these shows and watch these shows and look at these Instagram accounts and look at these YouTube channels and see a 315-pound fucking monster at 4% body fat and be like, whoa, I mean, that's what we want to see, just like we want to see 230-pound physical specimens getting in 15 fucking car crashes in an NFL football game and still living to tell the tale to move a ball into an end zone. And we all cheer. Yeah, it's great. Aren't they amazing?
Right.
I worked with a guy who played starting defensive line for West Virginia. I worked with him. He was a very good friend of mine back in the day. And he said, make no mistake, Rob, just so you know, I got a full scholarship at West Virginia, and they brought me into training camp on my very first day. They took me into a little room with my position coach and the team physician. They pushed a shoebox onto the table, and all they said to me was, look in there, son. All the instructions are there. If you have any questions, talk to that guy. What do you think was in that shoebox? About 15 freaking vials and about 15 freaking syringes. And he said, yeah, man, everybody's doing it. I said, really? You know, this was back in the 90s. And he said, oh, yeah, man, absolutely. He said, on our team, the only people that weren't taking it were those genetic freak wide receivers and safeties, and the quarterback wasn't taking it. He said, shit, man, the kicker was on it. And I was like, damn. He's like, yeah, man. And think about it. Anywhere that there's fame and money involved in professional athletics, I don't care what the athletics is, that's going to be involved somewhere. Or even Hollywood. Sylvester Stallone talked about, yeah, I took GH. Right. I mean, think about the careers. You got Sylvester Stallone doing freaking Rambo movies, and he's 70. Come on, give me a freaking break, you know? So, you know, I don't care that they're taking this juice, but I don't want people to naively think that, you know, that's attainable. But however, and you and I can relate to this, to achieve your genetic absolute best, which very few people will ever reach it. But if you can get really close, then you're going to be happy with it. And you can achieve a pretty damn cool level of muscularity. And if you're disciplined, you can achieve a really freaking cool level of leanness, enough to which you can stand on a stage and be judged for it by a panel of judges and a crowd of 1,000 people. Yeah. So no, you don't have to take steroids. You can do amazing things if your work ethic is on point and you're willing to work harder than you've ever worked in your entire life. Bodybuilding at the competitive level is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and it always will be till the day I die. Yeah. I doubt there'll be anything else that I do ever in my life where I can say, yeah, that was harder than a 7-month show prep. It's brutal. It's freaking horrible. You know.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, I mean, that's why I think this high intensity training, if you look at this logically and rationally under the lens of a natural human being who just has his drive and his determination and his push and his ability to absorb pain and discomfort at his disposal, I think by far that's going to be the best approach. And one last thing, for a guy like you and me, like a really old fuck like me, I still think it's the safest way to train. Sure. Because I'm not subjecting myself to an hour and a half of stress. Bam, 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 bam. It's one all-out set with meticulous controlled form and movement and motion. I go till I can't do any more, and then I stop. That's why I can continue to work at this level at 54 years old. And I have never had a major injury in my entire career. I've been lifting this way for 30 years, and I've never had an injury. And one last thing, I know I'm just talking like crazy. You'd think I'm...
Oh, no, this is great.
But one last thing, in 2018, and I think every bodybuilder can relate to this, I can look back in 2008, I placed third in 2018. And I'd started out, I placed second in the NPC, you know, which is a tough lineup. That's a tough lineup. So I placed a second, and I thought I got a little cocky. So maybe I took my foot off the gas a little bit. Maybe I didn't quite diet as hard, and I placed third. And then there were some other variables, but I thought, in order to achieve my goal, every single day, every single week, every single month, this next prep and the one after that, and if there's a one after that, and if there's a one after that, I will have to find that way to go harder, just like I found that way all those years ago to understand what failure is. But now I'm going to have to reach failure in every session, every part of my diet, every part of my recovery, every part of this prep. And I went back to the drawing board in 2000. When I competed in 2019, I won my class 3 times, first place, 50 plus, 40 plus, open heavyweight. And honestly, it wasn't even close in the open heavyweight, which shocked the shit out of me. And it's because I went back and I was looking through old notebooks from the 90s, and I started going back to the most basic, heavy duty, high intensity training, 15, 20-minute workouts to the death. And then I took my suffering to another level with my diet that year. And from 2018 to 2019, I went from a mediocre third place to a holy fucking shit, who's that old guy, winning 3 classes in the NPC and qualifying for a national level competition. I'm not saying that to brag, but what I use that as a tool, as a coach, to say, Jane, John, you can do this because I did it, but here's what I had to do in order to reach that level. Are you prepared to do this as well? Okay, let's do it. And so, yeah, there's another, high intensity testimonial that I applied even to myself again when I forgot that intensity a little bit. And I said, how can I take this to this next level? Well, I forgot what I've known, and I have to go back to what I know, and what I know works, and what I used to stand on freaking soapboxes back in the 90s and preach from the rooftops. I need to go back to that and discover that again. And when I did, I made changes in my physique, at 50 years old, and they were pretty dramatic. And I was very, very proud of that. And it's not, it's because of the sacrifice, but it's also because of the technology that I applied, going back to that logical, rational approach of high intensity training.
When you just talked about like the year that you kind of slacked off a little bit, I swear it sounds like you're doing the exact same thing that happened. 2021, man, was the best year physically ever. All right. I mean, I'm talking, I used to be a Marine, and I was in much better shape at 47 years old. 47 years old, right? There's the picture, in Indianapolis. I got my butt handed to me, but I was 162 pounds competing as a natural in a show where nobody else was natty. And then 2 weeks later, I do Natural Muscle Association in a show that my first competition ever, I was that fat guy in a thong. I looked like E. Honda from Street Fighter. Remember that fat guy? Okay. Then 2021, take first place, get my damn pro card. And then, all of a sudden I knew everything. I didn't have to really work that hard for these contest preps. Very humbling experience. And there's nothing good. There's nothing fun about losing. All right.
Oh, nothing. Yeah. No, it's terrible.
It's if I lose because the person is better than me, that's fine. But if I lose because I didn't do everything right, shame on me. I wasted over $1,000 fucking dollars this year on contests that I shouldn't have even done. But I'm glad I did it, because apparently you might not have learned you learned the same lesson, just maybe not as horrible as I did. Every day, with a bodybuilder, there is no off season, and the bulking season, I hate using that term. I learned it from you. It's not a bulking season, it's a gain season, because just because I'm trying to put on weight doesn't mean I can have cheesecake every single day.
Not good.
Right?
No.
And so, 2023 is going to be a new year, new me. I'm not trying to be like New Year's resolution bullshit, but the bodybuilding community is going to see a Chris Crowley they never saw before, and I'm putting that out there right fucking now.
That's what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just got to do what I got to do. You know what I'm saying? Rob, thank you. I know you got to get ready to take off. Where can people find you in the social media world, YouTube world, all that other stuff?
Just go to robgoodwin.com. My YouTube channel is there. I'm having a lot of fun with that right now. The Instagrams and all that shit. And that's where all my coaching services are. There's a few freebies on there. So just go there. It's all there. And if anybody has any questions or needs any help, you can always just shoot me a message, and I'm always willing to answer some questions and talk training and bodybuilding and nutrition with anybody.
Outstanding. Well, I definitely learned something new about the high intensity thing too. Thank you very much. I want to end on this one thing. You said about 20 minutes ago that you're like, you're nobody or whatever. That's bullshit. You've been out here and you've been putting a lot of information out into the world. All right. I can speak from experience, and I can speak from just getting to know you over the years, and then using your free stuff when I was too cheap to just actually hire you as a coach. You're a valuable asset to this community, and there should be a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people who are thankful for what you've done. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm being for real.
Well, we're all on the same team.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's just agree to keep pushing this message forward as a united front, because if we're not helping somebody, then why the hell are we even doing this?
Exactly. Exactly.
And thank you for everything you do. And you killed it. I remember that picture. I see it back there.
Yeah.
That guy kicked ass, and I won't forget it. I will not forget it. That day when we were texting back and forth, and when I've got a client that's competing, I'm a ball of stress. My phone's right here. I remember being in my workshop working on some freaking project my wife was wanting me to do, and I'd never put my phone down. And I even remember going to her when you were about a month out. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we can pull this off. This might just be a, just a feeder show, just to get, feet wet. And then when show day came, I remember showing her, I'm like, son of a bitch pulled it off, man. He worked his ass off. He did it right. And damn it, check this shit out. And I was impressed, man.
Thank you.
You really hammered down and you did the work. And that's what this is all about. It's about pushing yourself to a level that most people in this soft, weak culture that we live in will never comprehend. So if anything, keep pushing that message out that anybody can do this, but it's going to take this effort and this amount of determination and this amount of fight, and you can get there as well. Because if there's anybody that walked that walk and is a poster child for that, you did it. So keep doing that.
Thank you. I will. One message I want the whole world to know. You had Dr. Ted Naiman on your show one time, and he said that everybody is a bodybuilder, because basically a bodybuilder is when you're whatever you eat in private, you wear in public. And basically, a bodybuilder is nothing more than somebody who's getting up on stage about 99% naked and showing a reflection of their diet or exercise or lack thereof. Okay. Yeah. So while bodybuilding isn't for everybody, everybody can and should consider competing, but do it the right way. Just don't be the guy that pays an entry fee, kick your ass, get in the best shape of your life, look damn good with or without your clothes on. And God forbid, you're 50 something, I'm 48, and I know neither one of us necessarily look our age. So, I mean, it's the fountain.
Not from the neck down anyway.
Right. Well, and I got the whole Cleveland sun, so I'm pasty white Irish boy for the rest of my life. But that said, it is the fountain of youth. All the health problems I used to have are gone. And I know it's because of bodybuilding. And I'll close on that thing we were talking about with the steroids or whatnot. Folks, do you. But the one thing I can't stand are fake natties. Just be honest with yourself, because there's so many damn opportunities. You don't have to say, oh, I'm a natural. Just do you. Be honest. Yeah. I can't stand that. But other than that, yeah, steroids does not replace hard work. You got to work hard regardless of what you're doing.
Right.
Exactly. Well, Rob, thank you so much for being on board. I know you got to get back to doing real life things, but I really appreciate the time you took.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Anytime.
Outstanding. All right, guys, have a great day. Well, folks, I really hope you enjoyed that interview. I know I did. I got a lot of useful information out of it. And, if you're not learning, you're dying. And I learned a lot today. I hope you did too. So link in the description, download my free ebook, book your 30-minute consult. Let's make greatness happen together. I would love to be a part of your fitness journey. And if you liked that video, check out this video right here. You guys have a beautiful day. I love you, and I'll see you at the next video.